Good. Welcome, everybody. This is a special South Russell Village Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, March the 11th, 2025. The fiscal officer will take the roll, or the administrative assistant will take the roll.
Okay, Golicki?
Here.
Porter's absent. Bell?
Here.
Berger's absent. Cannon?
Here.
Kavanaugh's absent.
Okay, this is the trail discussion. This is a special council meeting. So what that means is we can only talk about things that are on the agenda for tonight. And we're taking a couple things off the agenda right now. It says if you have the agenda in front of you, survey results and committee recommendations. That will be on March 24th at 7 p.m. Basically, we didn't want to keep you out all night tonight. So that survey will be at the very beginning of the council meeting. They're very proud to say, and I don't want to steal anyone's thunder, but they got over 370 responses, which is just terrific. Vendatas, that was what we would call the CT Consulting. They were our engineers for years. They've changed the name to Vendatas. We have paid them $15,000 to come up with a master plan to develop for the trails. In the back is Rich Washington. Rich works for Vendatas. He is a landscape architect. He developed the master plan for our park, and he'll be developing the master plan for trails. The other thing on the agenda is public comments. What we're going to do tonight is hear from people who would like to make proposals. Before we do that, I'm going to give you a little bit of history as to just where we are, why we're here. We received $800,000 from NOACA, basically to get people off the roads. NOACA gave us $1.2 million to repave Bell, and they also gave us $800,000 to get the people off the roads. Tonight we'll probably hear suggestions for dirt paths, stone paths, asphalt paths. We'll hear some good and bad ideas. We're going to take all the ideas and we'll keep it goes to Rich, and we'll work from there. You have a map of the village, which a little bit details, and we have a map up here. I'll sit up here and try to point when people start talking about what they want to do. To keep this running smoothly, I have worked with Carrie Schloss, who's been on the one of the two leaders of the whole Get the Trails survey, the safe routes. So we've kind of rehearsed how we're going to go about this so we're really efficient. Basically, what we need from each one of you who has a proposal will be your name and address, and we'll show you that in a minute. My prediction, hopefully, is in 45 minutes, you're in your cars heading for home. Ideally, maybe Rich will be able to give us some sort of feedback by June. And hopefully, I look forward to maybe a ribbon cutting ceremony someplace in the village in the summer of 2027. Without further ado, we have people that want to present different proposals as to where they want. Simply give us the details, where you want it to be, and that's it. We don't want to get into a discussion, this one, that one, this house, that house, up, down. Give us your proposal. I have 8 of them, so be patient with me when it comes around. But we'll have Carrie go first. Carrie, we're going to have you stand near the microphone, which is right over here. This microphone does not project for here, it projects for the recording and for the people watching at home. So first, Carrie Schloss, you're on.
I'm Carrie Schloss, 290 Hickory Hill Road. And I'm going to share some of my ideas, but also informed by the survey. As Mayor Kuhn said, we had 373 responses. My ideas are somewhat informed by that, and I look forward to sharing that with you all on March 24th. But what we've seen is that there's a lot of interest in paths on Bell Road, and that there's interest in people trying to access South Russell Park, and for kids trying to access schools. So for me, a priority is a path from Gurney, actually through South Russell Park to connect into that neighborhood that starts at Spring Drive, that includes all of those side streets back there, And then also if it could extend slightly beyond Gurnee to also include the Chagrin Lakes neighborhood and Fox Run, then we'd really be connecting a lot of residents to the park and to the schools, and really start that connection on Bell.
Thank you.
Yep.
We're sitting right here, Joe adopted Bell, and basically she's talking Gurnee all the way in. All right, that's number one. Who'd like to go next? Yes, please. Name and address.
Sure. Hi, my name is Amanda Bensick, 33 Woodside Road. I live in, obviously, Rolling Ridge neighborhood. So I would love to see a path starting at South Russell Park on Bell, connecting all the way to where the sidewalk is in the village of Chagrin Falls. Also would love to see one on East Washington, starting at South Russell Park, connecting also to the sidewalk in the village. I have a kindergartner at St. John's. I would love to be able to walk him to school with my other little ones. And then also, I know it would help out the intermediate school, having access for the folks that live in South Russell as well as the high school. And also the businesses on East Washington.
Okay, so basically, you talk about coming out of the East Washington through this area here. Park would be here, basically on the south side of the road.
Correct.
The access. All right,
Yes.
and what was the second part of that?
Starting South Russell Park on East Washington, and then connecting into the village of Chagrin Falls along that way. Yes,
Okay,
that's my proposal.
all right, thank you. Who wants to go next?
Rick Smith, 36 Forest Drive, Rolling Ridge. So I just want everyone to know that I was doing this in 2007. And in 2009, I got 2 articles from the newspaper that we tried to do it 15 and 18 years ago, and it went nowhere. I told everyone back then it's going to take 5 to 10 years to do it, and they all kind of threw up their hands and said, no, and I said, it's going to take time. So now it's 15, 20 years later, and we're back at it again, and maybe it's going to happen. Back then, we had it was Matt Brett was the mayor. I think, Bill, you were around, city
Yes.
council, village council. We had an idea of, again, like everyone says, along Bell, maybe possibly going through Muggleton's or the village park, connecting Bell to Washington, and then going up Washington up to connect to the sidewalks. I mean, I think that's important because of the restaurants and all that that are in South Russell. And we were trying to do it in phases back then. We thought phases would work. In the first phase, what we were looking at is where is property that's not privately owned. So we had, going from village, from this area here, because you guys own it, going east because, what's the name of the development? Kensington. Kensington has a 30-foot easement along Bell, and there's nothing there. And that would take us all the way to Sunridge.
Yeah.
So we're thinking at least get it from Sunridge to 306, and then 306 to Gurnee. At least that would get kids to school that way. And then the hard part was getting from Gurnee down the hill to the park because the cemetery's there and there's not much there. We were thinking somehow going through the back of Gurnee and connecting up to Kimberwick or whatever, and going that way. So there's just not a lot of room. I think we'd probably have to go on the north side of Bell if we did it there because of the cemetery. But anyway, it's been looked at, and we tried hard 15, 20 years ago, it just never went anywhere. But we were thinking about going about as far as Sunridge for them, because there's only one piece of property at the corner of Sunridge and Bell that's private, and then you connect onto Kensington, and that's like a large, so you can get all the way to Gurney almost without even touching private property. So that's what our thoughts were.
Right.
But I think getting through, having a bike path or walking path, even if it's gravel through South Russell Park would be pretty important, you know. Now it's just grass, I think.
Yes, yeah.
Anyway,
All right, so basically, we're talking about from right here, Sunridge,
Yeah.
which is right here.
and that's pretty much open right now. It just seems like it's either the village owns it or it's the easement for
Okay, thank you. John, you're next.
John Buda, 106 Leaview Lane, and I'm advocating for a path from 306 along the south side of Bell, east to at least Sunridge. Same thing that he was just describing. So people want to go to the market or obviously towards downtown, that would be good. Get them off Bell Road, especially in that area. And if it could be extended to Gurney, that would be even better. But primarily, I'm here to advocate for that 306 east to Sunridge as far as you can go.
Why only to Sunridge? I guess I'm wondering, I mean, you have residents all the way. why
As far as it can go,
Okay.
meaning if it can go further, I'm all for it. It's just, it gets complicated with people's property, the culvert. And so I was, again, thinking of something to start with that's easiest.
Yes, sir. You're next. Name and address, please.
Hello, Igor Sadovnik, 105 Southwick Drive. We are new residents of the beautiful area. Always been a dream of ours to live in Sugar Falls. And now that we're by the school, we have 3 young children. So we're right in Southwick. So I agree that taking it as far down to Sugar Falls as possible would be imperative to get people to be able to go down there during blossom time, to take longer bike rides together, to enable people to do more running and more physical activities. Moving from University Heights has really shown me how difficult it is to go outside and move around in the cul-de-sacs. So the physical aspect of navigating all this gorgeous area is imperative. So agreeing that, going further down Bell also makes sense for any residents down there, but I also like the idea of going up all the way to 306 from at least South Russell Park if we were to do it in pieces, because that gets all the kids in the neighborhood that can go out to the school and also connects you to the businesses that are right there in that corner. You could reach the city hall, you could reach a variety of different experiences, but again, ultimately it would be best if it went all the way down, or even if possible down 306 to go down to the Heinens area, to that big area with the Ace Hardware, because that just completely doubles down on accessibility. People could get wagons, people could get motorized bikes and go ahead and do those things. So the one thing I do have a caveat around in terms of, if possible, to submit a design idea in terms of what the actual material will be. I am a big proponent of the same exact trail composition that you have in the metro parks. The ability to have passing lanes for different types of people walking between them. I know the easements are a bit of an issue when it comes to how much space is available, but the continuous line really helps people with bikes, with strollers, with any settling that happens over time. It's a little bit easier to patch. It also matches a lot of the European standards for pedestrians, people with wheelchairs, people with any kind of things that bump and cause any issues. The smooth gradient of the material tends to actually just conform to the shifting of time instead of just cracking and breaking up and causing kind of barriers to people being able to clear it really effectively, especially on private areas. So we experienced that in University Heights as well. There is a robust system of walkability. However, if you take any kind of non-suspended vehicle or carriage down it, you're like hitting nonstop. So the settlement and the routes tend to be an issue for the traditional slabs that get poured. And I also believe that they tend to all potentially run more expensive depending on how much material you're using. So the ability to kind of pass, if we have to do one single side, that opens up the ability for you to have one trail with crossings around critical areas while retaining the continuity of the path itself. So those are my 2 main caveats. So as far down as possible to Sugar Falls, and a contiguous, non-poured surface that allows for ease of movement across the pavement.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
What was the section that, the Ace Hardware that you were describing?
So down 306, so after you make that right and you go down for a little while, it's down that
Down,
area.
okay.
I know it's kind of far, like,
Gotcha.
but it would be ideal to be able to kind of navigate down there.
So you're talking about East Washington?
No, 306.
306.
South.
But
way past outside of our jurisdiction.
but it's 306 in Bainbridge?
Yeah. If we can take it as far up there as possible, just due to the older concentration of businesses, that was the idea. That's a dream, I understand. It's also not a jurisdiction, but I can understand how important it is to connect businesses and people to those businesses that want to locomotive out that way.
Okay,
Thank you.
who's next?
So I'm Suzanne Maloney, I'm at 100 Waverly Lane, Emerald Lake. Welcome, Igor. I'll be running past your house quite a bit. So when I think about this whole project, I think that we're building something we're building something for our entire base. So all our neighbors, not just a portion of them. So I would ideally like to see the path be from the far edge of South Russell, all the way east, all the way down to Chagrin, down Bell, to connect with Ridgewood. And I would also like to see it, when I'm thinking of going down Bell to Gurney, it needs to be on the north side. I believe it would be on the north side there in order to allow the students to get to Gurney all the way to Waverly, which is where we are. So, past Gurney to Waverly. And I think the south side, right at the park, it would probably, would utilize the crosswalk that we put in. And then it would continue on the south side of Bell, all the way down to Ridgewood. And I really don't want it to go through Rolling Ridge Colony because I think that that's a bit intrusive for the people who live in that area. I would love to see us utilize our park. Somehow, I know that land was donated for a specific purpose and only certain things can be built in place there, but if there's some way to build, maybe the surface is more natural for the parkland and we have some sort of a path, or maybe it's a gravel path that's accessible by bicycle as well as, you can take strollers and things if it's not an asphalt path. Cut through the park and continue with Washington so that the kids can get to St. Joan of Arc and get to the businesses, get to Cleveland Clinic and onto the high school and the middle school. So ideally, in a perfect world, I think that would be great. It would be great for the runners and the walkers and I think you get that buy-in from for tax purposes from the people if we had to do a tax levy to support this because you're not forgetting people, you're not leaving anybody out. I also think that the material that you utilize is important. I think concrete's way too expensive. It's 3 times, 4 times, I don't know what it is, more expensive than asphalt. Asphalt melds better with the natural scenery. It's a firmer substance. It would be nice for bicycles. It's easier for strollers, bicycles, runners, certainly. Gravel's okay for runners, but not so good for some types of bicycles and strollers and things, and then the weather. So I'm not sure about, ideally I think an asphalt path like what they have in the metro parks, as Igor mentioned, I think that would be ideal. I do worry about maintenance. Who's going to maintain it? Who's going to absorb the cost of that? Ideally, I'd love to see something with the village for maintenance, or maybe we make it only accessible for 3 seasons, not 4. I don't see too many people out there in the winter. I don't see why something like this would have to be shoveled and cleared in the wintertime. But I think that's it for me.
Thank you. You're gonna all have to listen to me for 8 ideas. There we go, all right.
My name is Ryan Macy. I live in Chagrin Lakes. I have 2 kids at Gurney right now. And the biggest reason that I'm here is because I want them to be able to bike to school. And right now it's scary for them just to bike through our neighborhood where we don't have sidewalks or shoulders. Bell is terrifying to me. I would love to have the trail connecting at least from Gurney down to South Russell Village Park, it would be fantastic to get all the way into Chagrin for Blossom Time or for the stores, for just spending time and having a longer bike ride with them. And I would love for them to have that access. If we go east, I'm great with that. I want to include everyone. I want everyone to have that access that I hope my kids can enjoy. But I think it should be a 4-season trail, even if we can't get it plowed all the time. When I go running in the winter, I'm really limited in my options in this area because I either have to run down Bell to get to the park, and Bell isn't plowed quite enough for me to run and for trucks to go by and me not be terrified down that stretch. Having a trail that's just off to the side, even if it's not plowed and it's me slogging through, that would still make a huge difference in safety for anyone who wants to get out of the house in the wintertime. And yeah, David, go for that.
Thank you. Who's next? Just a little brief history. Ruth Cavanaugh in the 1990s dealt with trails.
1992.
Rick and I were 2012, I think, 2012.
2007, 2009.
2007 and 9, a long time ago. Okay,
And to, I didn't get the last name, Igor. We tried that in 1992 and it failed. We tried it and that's when there was more open land, meaning it wasn't necessarily free, but it didn't have homes on it. We tried it and we failed. That doesn't mean we fail now. It's just harder to do that. If you can picture in my life, my teenage life, going down, I'm gonna say it wrong, what's the, Maple Springs? Wait, does Maple Springs come off of Bell? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, what's the one that goes east and west off of 306?
sure.
Shearbrook. Shearbrook, wide open to the park. We could have done that very easily. We didn't do it. Nobody asked. I think there was a naive supposition that that would stay open, and it did not. I would love to do something like this. I see, and council knows this, if you watch our YouTubes, council is trying very hard. And I see runners and I see e-bikers and regular bikers go by my home like I did today when I was outside. And they want to be outside. And we have given them, and it has cost the village, that extra 3 feet on each side. And so we tried. That's all I can say. It costs a lot of money if you want to do it.
Okay. Here's a couple of ideas. One, this is the Fox neighborhood, Gurney is right here, is to do a little path from Fox Run to the Gurney sidewalk. You'd have to go over the creek. They do have a bridge there now, but I don't know how sturdy it is. That would be a little path, very short, right from here to here. The next one's one somebody mentioned. This is Maple Springs cutting through. This is Sugar Bush. On this side of the south side, to put a path that connects Chagrin Lakes to Sugar Bush. Again, it would require a bridge going over the creek, but it would keep people off of Bell so that they would simply cross Bell to go into Gurney. There is a guardrail there, and I would suggest that the path would be on the south side. Anything to keep the kids off of Bell Road. Okay, we've already had one of them. The park is right here. This is Alderwood. Put a path on the east side up through here. This would be on beyond the curving. Because this road, we've had to restrict this road. It's curvy, people park here, people drive too fast. But you would be off the road going from here, from Bell north up to Manor Brook. At Manor Brook, okay, this is Whitetail. This is all Manor Brook Drive. From Whitetail on the north side of Manor Brook, a path going down to basically Chillicothe. This would get people off of Manor Brook. Manor Brook's got the big hill, we have an issue with speed, so that would be a proposal from Manor Brook on the north side to here. This one was pretty much mentioned, but I'll mention it again, is when the path that's on Bell Road, when it comes into Chagrin Falls, it just disappears. If you're on a bicycle, all of a sudden the path disappears. To do something with Ridgewood to figure out how to connect that, and that'll be connected with South Russell runs into Chagrin Falls. This, I had a lot of time to think on this. Established in this area here, the only intersection really we have with the traffic light is what's called a scramble crosswalk. More people are hit in cars by they're in the crosswalk and they're hit when cars are turning. So what you do is you scramble it, you'd shut down the entire intersection for say 20 seconds. So somebody could diagonally walk from South Russell over to the gas station. They could go from the Red Barn over to Augie's there, and the whole intersection would be shut down. This avoids, again, people turning. Do I have the right of way? It's the turning light going to come on. It's called a scramble.
So no right on red there.
It'd be nothing. Everything shuts down for like 20 seconds. So ideally, you could do two streets in 20 seconds, or you could go right across.
But you would put back your signs that say no right turn on red, the one that was eliminated at the corner of Augie.
No, I think what you do, you'd have every traffic light to be red.
Well, it doesn't matter, you can still turn
You still
right
turn
on red.
and hit somebody.
So that, your point is well taken, because you would have to then disestablish the right turn on red.
The last proposal that I came up with is in the Gurney fields that are here, somehow connect to the power lines, basically up in here. Right? Rich, the burden now falls to you. I think what we'll do is get together with Carrie and Kelly and you and I to go over details. I think we went rather fast for you, but any questions or comments before we move on?
What's the next part, Mayor? Is it Rich got a presentation or anything?
No, next part's to go home.
The only question I have is for Rich. And Rich, I think, there's a lot of different, when you talk about trails or paths, there's a lot of visions people have. From a 3-foot wide trail to something better. The one thing that we're faced with is we have the opportunity to use the $800,000. But if we use the $800 or $800,000 to build this trail or path, we have to go according to the guidelines that the state of Ohio or other funding sources put on us. In that directive, should we decide to use those earmarked funds, it's called out how wide the path has to be. Can you articulate to the people what that is? So when we're talking about taking people's front yards, either for a right-of-way or an easement, and especially with the limited room that we have on Bell, please tell people what that requirement is going to be.
Right, so the ODOT trail requirement actually was 10, and I think they've actually bumped it up to 11 feet wide for a multimodal pedestrian bike access trail. And there are different requirements based on what side of the street it's on, the width. Obviously, if you have 2 direction, 1 direction, there's a whole set of guidelines for that. And then obviously construction wise, that has to be prevailing wage, has to be bid out to the public companies, so that you get, supposedly you get the best price then. And it doesn't really matter what the material is. They do have guidelines for materials. Typically, if it's going to be next to a road, it's going to be an asphalt material. But there's a lot of different requirements, and like at the intersection, there are different turning radii, different striping methods. You've probably seen, even like downtown Cleveland, there are some areas where they've painted it green to make it stand out. Sometimes the lane is, if it's a bike lane, it's moved to the middle. Obviously, you're not going to walk that way. But so yeah, there's a number of criteria. But in terms of standard width, it's kind of,
I do think it's 11 now. Yeah. And the other side of it is, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that in addition to the 11-foot swath dedicated to the path or the trail, that there's an additional buffer zone of 3 feet on either side, which has to be clear of trees and other vegetation. So, my concern is from the citizens that might be affected on Bell or major thoroughfares where we're envisioning any of the paths, is that you're talking about a considerable amount of their property being consumed.
yeah, and there's a lot of different, where the path goes, there's poles, there's trees, there's driveways, there's culverts, ditches, all that needs to be planned around. Sometimes we separate the trail into 2 pieces, then you're out of the 10-foot, then be one direction, so you can go the trail that way is another way of looking at it. But it does, there's a lot of utilities that you need to take into account for as well. And then anywhere, if you have guardrails, sometimes there's a criteria where you have to have a divider, depending on the traffic load. Speed limit is a factor for the trail design as well.
And, the other side is that, as well as if on Bell Road, I don't know if there's any government of designated wetlands, but the wetlands would then have to be bridged as well. So.
Yeah, any kind of environment, even ditches now can be regulated by ecological reasons. If you want to clean out a ditch, sometimes now you have to go through a permitting process for that as well. So and then if you're going to an area where there are a bunch of trees, you have to follow the tree clearing time frame. So you can't clear trees after March 31st. So you really want to watch when the project would be out for bid, when it would be under construction, so that you could have time to clear the trees before construction will begin. Permitting, if there is wetland, permitting is another factor that can take a while. It could be a few months to 6 months to a year, depending on how much wetlands there are or other environmental conditions are in those areas.
Rich, is 11 feet the standard for the Metro Parks then? We're envisioning those paths that they have in Metro Parks.
It depends, so those are internal. If they're internal to the park, then it's really not a public right of way, right? And a lot of times they're gonna make theirs based on maintenance vehicles, so they could, or even emergency vehicles, so they could get back there if something happens, if it's not near a road.
So Lander put a sidewalk in, and it's only like 4 or 5 feet wide.
Can you tell us where, is it like Lander Circle?
No, well, it goes from Lander Circle due north. And they put it in the last 6 months.
And
Yeah.
sidewalks are different than paths and trails.
So that's what I mean, so do we wanna look at sidewalks, because it takes up a lot less space, and I don't think there's the idea of having 3 feet on either side, because it seemed like they just weed, up on Lander, the trees around it and all that.
Right, it's a little wider than a standard sidewalk, but it's not,
It's probably 5 feet, but, so I think you have to weigh the width and getting easements to people's yards versus, we're just gonna put a 5-foot concrete walk in front of your area instead of taking 1,600 feet, it's gonna take 5.
Is that Orange Village or is that Pepper Pike?
it's Pepper Pike.
Orange did the same thing, they got the width.
Yeah, theirs is a little, I think theirs is more like a standard walk
Yeah.
width, but the Pembroke Pike is maybe a little bit wider for the comfort bicycles, I suppose, and it goes down to Gates Mills and then that.
Oh, you're talking about the Eastern Boulevard.
They're now they're working on that, so it's sort of connecting Lander Circle all the way up to Gates Mills, that green space.
I want to introduce Haley Richard. Haley is the reporter for Chagrin Valley Times. If you've been following along or start following along, Bentleyville has talked about sidewalk, a path from Solon to Chagrin. $4 million, something like that. On a different note, the south section of Chagrin at Carriage Stone, they're looking at putting in sidewalks. Now that's going to cost the homeowners, I think, almost $11,000. And that's been going on for probably 20 years. Pepper Pike put in sidewalks. They're also running a path through Gates Mills Boulevard up to Mayfield. On the other hand, when you hit Mayfield, when you hit Cedar, you go into Mayfield Heights. Mayfield Heights turned down government money. They did not want the path to go on to continue. So there's going to be a lot of variables. I really encourage you to kind of follow along what's going on in the newspaper, because there'll be a lot of information.
And, to your point about the sidewalks, although it's, a lot narrower and would satisfy a lot of what we bring forward today, then the cost is, by Ohio code, is borne by the property owners for that improvement.
I don't think that would pass.
And that's, I think, some of the impediments that people reached in 1992 or 2007 as well, is that if you do put it in, to the benefit of the entire community, to the individual property owner, sometimes that's a tough sell.
But is that only on their property? So if you put a concrete sidewalk in front of Kensington, that's not Kensington, it's an easement on Kensington, so it's not a private piece of private property.
Kensington owns
private
the property,
property.
so
It's
that
private
the Kensington Homeowners Association would have to apportion that cost to the individual homeowners in Kensington.
I think we're getting,
The cost is spread through South Russell residents.
Well,
Why do you
you'd have to take it to a vote,
Who
but
have that running through their yard.
because that's the way the Ohio law is written.
Okay.
I think we're getting into a lot of speculation now. I want to introduce two experts. I already introduced Rich, but sitting next to Rich is Catherine Garvey, who knows probably more about this than she wishes she didn't know. She's basically transformed Chagrin Falls. All right, it's 7:37. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
Bill, I just want to make one comment.
Yes.
It's by show of hands, who did not take the survey?
Sorry.
So, that's great. So your feedback has been incorporated into what Carrie's group and with the mayor will be presenting, which is wonderful. Get a good sense of like what the whole community is saying.
Yeah.
People who couldn't be here tonight.
Yeah, there's some negatives in there. We got a few, but we'll see.
Primarily though, it was very positive,
Good.
so, yeah.
All right, feel free to stick around. Can we get a motion to adjourn? Moved by Canton, seconded by
Second.
Kavanaugh. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Feel free to stay and ask questions, make other comments.
It's been canceled, yes. Oh, really? Okay, the 13th is definitely canceled. Oh, we have our meeting for BZA on the 19th. Okay, we have that. Okay, yeah. No problem.